Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today I am very excited to be diving into a list video to end out the year. This is going to be the 20 best solo games of 2023 by the Rolling Solo board game community. And I put out a survey a few weeks back, and the entries have all come in, and I've gone ahead and put together 20 games from the Rolling Solo board game community, specifically from your votes, as to one of the best games of 2023. This should be a really fun list to run through. There's just a couple things I want to mention before we get going with the video. I cannot wait. The first thing I want to mention is the fact that I will be away from the channel for the week of Christmas, hence the reason why I'm putting this video out now, to help arm you with some information as to what the solo community was saying were the best games of 2023. Now, something else to make mention of is the fact that Sleeping Gods Distant Skies literally showed up my doorstep a day or two ago. I put it in the survey, it got some votes, but it wasn't there from the very beginning. So because of this, it didn't garner enough votes to really be included inside of this year's survey. So I believe truly that if it had arrived a little bit earlier for people, that this would have gone up on the survey list. Of course, if I had have actually added it to the survey a little bit earlier, that would have changed things as well. But long story short, this is an honorable mention for this year. It will not be part of this top 20 list, but I certainly expect it to be a better iteration as it's building upon what Sleeping Gods already did, and it did really well in prior lists from last year. The final things I want to mention around this list is that every entry on the list is going to be a base game that was released in 2023, so there are no expansions on this list. The Rolling Solo community selected in the 20th position Sky Tier Horde from Sky Tier Games. This is a great one. I've got coverage on the channel for it if you want to see it in action. It has some fantastic artwork all the way through. The gameplay flows. It's very small in terms of its footprint on the table, but your essence is you're going to have a bunch of heroes and allies as you try to go up against the hordes. You're trying to take down a portal, and then once you take down the portal, you take down the boss. Now the boss and the hordes that are coming at you are trying to take out your deck or take down your castle. That is how they win. And it's a back and forth lane card battler. It's a lot of fun, and you should definitely check it out if you have not heard of it. Moving along to the 19th position on the list, the Rolling Solo board game community selected Unmatched Adventures Tales to Amaze, coming from Restoration Games. This one is going to pit you and your heroes in mid-20th century with a pulp adventure theme to it, going up against villains like Mothman, for instance, on one battlefield, one side of the game board. Flipping it over to the other side of the game board, you'll have a different villain to go up against. There's also enemies that those villains can bring into play. So you'll have lots to deal with to try and stop. And then, of course, the villains are also trying to take down the heroes that are collectively working together to win the game. This one is an interesting one and definitely worth checking out. Position number 18 belongs to Astronites from Indie Board and Cards. I covered this on the channel, had a ton of fun doing so. I actually went up against the Architect, which you'll see here in just a second. Yes, this one right here, and it's just as fun in its final form as it was in its prototype form. You have a deck, you never shuffle it. That's part of the cool mechanisms in the game. You're trying to keep your homeworld from being destroyed. You're trying to take down the boss, and you're going to deck build your way to hopefully success in this one. If you like deck building games, definitely check it out. Number 17 on the list from the Rolling Solo board game community belongs to Earth. It's coming from Inside Up Games. If you are a fan, I want to say, of Terraforming Mars from the past, which has been around for quite some time, you're going to be interested in what Earth is doing here. Very similar in terms of its engine building, in terms of its looking for synergies and strategies to min-max your decisions to get the best possible score as you play through the game. From a solo perspective, if you like Terraforming Mars, you're going to like the solo play here inside of Earth as well. Definitely recommend checking it out. Number 16 on the list from the Rolling Solo board game community belongs to Halls of Hagrera. Now, hopefully I'm pronouncing that last word correctly. This one skirted completely underneath my radar. I did not pick this one up. I didn't play it. I've researched into it since hearing about it. And if you like games like Robinson Crusoe, Dead of Winter, This War of Mine, it's a solitaire-only experience. And if you like any of those three games, you're going to find something to like here. This video is taking me through all the three major phases. You can actually see them on the screen as well. And of course has the theme of World War II. So if any of those different things interest you, you're probably likely to find something of high interest here with this one. The 15th position on the Rolling Solo board game community list is Apiary, and this is a cool one from Stonemaier Games, of course, all surrounding bees. It's a worker placement game. You're going to be doing a hive building challenge as you move through a number of phases from your bees, exploring, growing, and advancing, all the way to the point of hibernation. You're going to be trying your best to not only survive, but also thrive inside of the game. That's going to be a key element to this one, so if you're into these types of games, this might be exactly what you're looking for. The 14th position on the list from the Rolling Solo board game community is Dune Imperium Uprising, another standalone experience for Dune Imperium. So if you already have Dune Imperium, you can still pick this one up and it can blend together with what you already have for the original. You can also have it as a standalone if you just want to dive in with this one first. Now, this is going to allow you to mix and match a number of different components inside of the game. So I'm not going to get into the details of that, but it is going to expand what you already have if you have prior entries in the series already to date. So as a solo player, this might be much more good stuff for you in terms of what you're into. For me personally, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole in this one as far as most people have, but I've heard extremely good things about all iterations of Dune that have come out through this line in the past. So Uprising is not surprising to see here at this position. The number 13 position on the list from the Rolling Solo board game community belongs to Expeditions, coming from Stonemaier Games. This is a card-driven engine-building game of exploration, and it's going to have you exploring in the universe of Scythe. It is not Scythe specifically, has its own little pathway there, but it is a very highly produced game. However, at the same time, it's going to take up quite a bit of table space. For solo players, that could be a hit or a miss, but this one sits at number 13. Moving on to the 12th position on the list, the Rolling Solo board game community selected Tamashii Chronicle of Ascend, this one coming from Awakened Realms Light. This one is going to be your cyberpunk adventure. That's going to take you on an adventure board game through cyberpunk. You're going to be working inside the physical realm as well as the digital realm, bouncing in and out and dealing with problems on both sides of those equations. This one actually really surprised me. I actually had this one kind of at the back of my line of games of interest, and it slowly started rising up quite quickly. I was really, really impressed by this one, and recommend if you're looking for a cyberpunk game to check it out. The 11th position on the list from the Rolling Solo board game community is Voidfall, this one coming from My Clash Games, and I'm just going to say this right now, the game is an absolute masterpiece. It is well designed, well produced, and it is very, very strategic. Everything you do inside the game is going to be about min-maxing decisions here and there. You're going to have all kinds at your disposal to make as you go through this one, and that makes it just so much fun to really dig into. Now, the only con I can say around this one being as great as it is the fact that it is a massive table hog and it is going to take quite a bit to get set up to the table on a typical run. So if you're the type of person that wants to put this game on the table and leave it there and play it over and over and over again, you're going to get your best bang for buck with this one 100%. If you're somebody that's going to pull this out and play it once and put it away, it's going to be really tough to put this thing back on the table once you put it away, as the setup and teardown time, as I mentioned, is a little bit on the heavy side, and that's something that's going to really keep it from getting to the table maybe more often than it should. We've now hit top 10 territory, and number 10 belongs to The Witcher Old World, and I'm actually really happy that this one crawled all the way up to the top 10 territory, because I really feel that this one absolutely nailed the IP extremely well, and not only is it a fun adventure game to go through, but also all the modular add-ins that you can add into the fray, whether you change up the mid-game, the end-game, you can add things in at your leisure in order to change the experience overall. So you can have a quicker game with less add-ins or less expansions merged in. You can add things in as you like particular expansions over other ones. Certain ones by the solo community are highly recommended to be in all the time. Other ones will change the length of your play. The ability to make those changes is something that most adventure games don't have and don't do easily. And this one really has that modular feel, and I love it. The 9th position on the list belongs to Hoplomachus Remastered from Chip Theory Games. This one makes me happy just seeing it here, because in my opinion, it absolutely deserves a spot on the top 10 of the year. They remastered all the original content and brought it up to their standards current day, although their standards back when this first came out and all those different sets was awesome, but this just encompasses the entire line from Hoplomachus and that original series of games kind of in one spot, and that is just huge for me, because it was my first entry into anything Chip Theory Games even before Too Many Bones came along, and that took over the top spot in my mind and still is the top from them to this day. If you haven't checked out Hoplomachus, do yourself a favor and pick up the remastered edition. It is awesome. We now move to the 8th position, and the Rolling Solo board game community said that Distilled from Paverson Games belongs here, and I absolutely agree. This is an absolutely awesome game. I had so much fun playing this. I covered this on the channel as well, and this one just drips with theme from start to finish. It's also perfect in terms of its execution of how all this stuff works from A to Z in terms of merging it into a board game. It's just so well done. If you have not played this game and you haven't picked it up, I definitely recommend you do. Whether you're playing it solo or multiplayer, this thing is going to surprise you. It's a lot of fun, and it's going to be one that you'll play and then want to play multiple times back to back to back. The seventh spot on the list from the Rolling Solo board game community is Earthborn Rangers. And this one, the second you even receive the boxes themselves and open them up and take a look at them and actually check out the map, you're going to see that you're on your way for an adventure that you're likely not going to forget. This one's not going to have you going through combat type interactions with the environment. You're going to be more so trying to find synergies, interact with the game world around you. You are a ranger, you have your own deck, you're going to build that deck out, you're going to augment the deck. There's just going to be all kinds of things to do with your character. So if you think of Arkham Horror, the LCG, where you have a character deck and it kind of evolves over time, think of it in that way. But of course, in this game, you're going to be basically exploring a heck of a lot inside of it. And I think you'll get lost in this one and really enjoy it from a solo perspective. In the number 6 position on the Rolling Solo board game community's list is the Castles of Burgundy Special Edition. Not really surprised by this one. Castles of Burgundy has been around for quite some time, but when Awakened Realms gets their hands on something that is older, they do a fantastic job, it seems, of upgrading it from that past look to something a lot more special. And that's exactly what this is. You can absolutely enjoy this one solo, and it has a solid established game as well as just deluxeified components across the board to really make the experience pop like something made a little bit more modern, a little bit more like today. This kind of a production on this old of a game makes me very excited for what Robinson Crusoe is going to look like as it comes down the pipes. I cannot wait for that one to arrive as well. This one is a solid solo option for you. We've made it to top 5 territory, and yes, Zombicide actually crept up into the top 5. This is Marvel Zombies, a Zombicide game, and this is actually a first because most Zombicide iterations that have hit my list from the community in the past have ended up in the back half or completely off the list altogether. To have Marvel Zombies, which is a Zombicide-based game, show up in the top 5 just shows how much of a structural change this particular game was. Again, overall, is it a structural change? Zombicide's still Zombicide, but people really, really like this one. And I actually kind of think about it like if they had actually created this game and released it 3 to 4 years ago, like around the time of Endgame, the amount of money they would have made off this would have been just off the charts. Now, I completely understand trying to get an IP at certain time frames may not be easy, but people are starting to wane off of the superhero train in that there has been a bajillion movies and not all of them have been all that great lately, especially lately. And so it's nice to see that the board game is still got the support on the superhero theme. In this one, if you're looking across all games that have a superhero theme, might actually be up there in terms of the best option to get that feels the most like you're playing with actual superheroes on the game table. I really like the heroic traits that the heroes can get as they go through the gameplay. That really kind of adds a dynamic vibe to the game that you don't know what they're going to be able to be capable of at any given time. And of course, the zombie version of the heroes throw all kinds of twists into the mix. The number 4 spot on the Rolling Solo board game community's list for the best solo games belongs to Legacy of You from Garphill Games, and they have a whole bunch of solo games from the past that are great. This one is a solo-only game. It's resettable. You're going to be controlling You as he tries to keep the floodwaters from the village while also trying to protect the village from other intruders on the outside. This one is thematically awesome and also plays extremely well. Small footprint on the table, but the actual crunchiness of the gameplay is something you're going to dig right into and continue to play over and over and over again. If you have not tried this or checked it out, I highly recommend it. We've now reached top 3 territory, and in the 3rd position from the Rolling Solo board game community is Too Many Bones Unbreakable from Chip Theory Games. This is going to have you delving into the depths with 2 brand new characters in the world of Too Many Bones. This is the final standalone expansion for the game, although I don't know if I believe that. We will see if that actually holds true, but this game is going to add more to the mix of what you've already experienced in Too Many Bones and further lengthen things that you can explore inside of the game world. It's going to introduce lava and a number of other mechanisms as you traverse through the caverns underground, which is pretty cool. So you'll have these 2 new characters that you'll be able to interact with as you go through the game, which will add more spice to the already crazy array of gear locks that are available. But this is an all-time favorite for me. Too Many Bones is one of the first games from a solo perspective that I ever picked up from Chip Theory Games, and it was by far one of the most fun they've ever produced. The number 2 position on the Rolling Solo board game community list belongs to another Chip Theory game. This is 20 Strong, and it appears that they came up with this idea after ingesting way too much cola, and they came up with something that actually works really, really well. And it's just all it is essentially a pared down version of a number of games in their series of games, which are on the typically medium to heavy side of the equation. I'm not just talking about complexity, I'm also talking about weight. Their games are typically very heavy games. So having a very small box game to be able to travel around with that is literally just cards, cubes, maybe some dice, which there are some dice in 20 strong, and a chip to track some things, that's it. It keeps the production value low. It enables people to bring that game and be able to play solo in really unique spots. You can play technically right on top of a tray on an airplane if you wanted to, because it is so small footprint. And that makes it a huge accessibility to almost everybody. And the fact that they can continue to release more of these as they release more games, they just simply need to pare them down to a 20 strong formula and they've got themselves a win. So really at the end of the day, I've played the ones that I've already received a bunch of times, and I was really impressed at how they actually kept the vibe of those larger scale games in the 20 strong formula, which was really impressive. And I definitely agree with the community. This one should be way up on the list this year. The top spot on the list belongs to the Isofarian Guard from Sky Kingdom Games. This is well deserved and was the highest voted across all of the games. This is an epic campaign. If you're playing solo, you're going to be in for quite the experience. The entire thing is narrated by foretellers, so you don't have to read a thing in terms of narration. Everything is voice acted. You have an open world to explore and get lost in and choose where you want to go in different nodes. Certain nodes will be blocked off for you until you hit certain points in the story, but the majority of the nodes are open for you to explore. You can interact with different cities, interact with different characters, build up your characters over time, harvest things. There's just a whole bunch to do inside this game, and the most recent reprint campaign is going to further develop the game and add more to the universe as this thing goes forward. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. And that, my friends, wraps up another list from the Rolling Solo board game community. I want to thank everybody for the responses to the survey, as it's really helped to create this list, and really hope this entire list helps you to see where things sat with the community over the course of 2023. Looking forward to what 2024 has in store, and also there were a couple other questions on the survey, which I'll be touching on in future videos. We'll do some other top 10s, top 15s, top 20s for those other categories down the line, but this is the one that I truly wanted to get out before Christmas and before I go away for a little bit. And by away, I just mean take a break from the channel, relax, play some games, enjoy family and friends. And I hope you do the exact same over the holidays. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you're not part of the Discord channel or the Facebook group, would love to have you in either or both spots. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, keep on rolling solo.